The Eminence and Shadow. So this is a series I've actually already done a manga spotlight for, but a lot of people requested I do a follow-up, and since the anime for the series was recently announced, I thought, well, now would be the perfect time to do a follow-up. So here it is. So this is an amazing series. It's based off the light novel, which the light novel itself might be based off a web novel. I don't know if there's a web novel. There probably is a web novel, but light novel is what the anime is, what the manga is being adapted from. And this is probably my favorite ongoing manga right now. I would say it would be this and the sci-fi isekai, which name I can't remember because it's way too long. But this is freaking amazing, fantastic. The comedy is like the greatest. Like I'm constantly laughing at it almost every page. So for anyone who wants to know like a brief plot review on what this is about, you guys can go check out my previous video on this series, but I'll do like a quick rundown. So basically it's about Sid, who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world. And before he got isekai'd, he was a chunin. He was very big on being a mob character, but like the mob character that kind of comes in from the shadows to save the day. Basically, he wants to be like the tuxedo mask of his world. And he trained in magic, he trained in swordplay, he grew giant muscles, he trained spiritually, and yeah, he basically trained in every aspect that he could. And then he got hit by a truck and got reincarnated. And his love for trying to be this mob shadowy character kind of stuck with him. So now he's living out his fantasies in this world. And hence the name The Eminence and Shadow, because he's a shadow character and his team is called the Shadow Garden and all that stuff. He's amazing. He's awesome. Like, I love him. He's probably one of my favorite. Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters of all time. So, yeah, I mean, he's just, how can you not like a character who like jumps into the middle of a bunch of bandits, yells out, "Hey, yo, bitches, if you value your life, bring out all the money you got," and just starts slaughtering everybody, even when they give him money. But Sid is just, he's just fantastic. So yeah, he basically created the Shadow Garden, and he created up this BS story about how there's this cult called the Cult of Diablos, and Diablos is like this demon, like this world-destroying demon that's going to come back because of this cult, and so he forms this group so that they can stop this cult and the demon. But the thing is that Sid made all that up, or at least he thought he made all that up. He basically just wanted a group of followers to kind of roleplay with him without telling them that he's roleplaying. But it turns out that everything that he says comes true. So there actually is a Cult of Diablos. There actually is a Diablos character. Sid actually meets the Diablos in one of the previous arcs. I'm not going to spoil who it is, though. You guys will have to, read for yourself. I don't want to spoil it also because if anyone's just reading the manga, it hasn't been announced yet who Diablos is. At least I don't remember Diablos being announced yet. But I kind of got spoiled because of the light novel. So I know who Diablos is. For example, he has like a power to... his sister goes missing and he throws a knife at a map and randomly picks a location. And then it turns out that that's actually where his sister is at. So like all these just like coincidences happen. Like whatever he says is going to happen, happens. So there's this theory, like, is this like a part of his power? Is he just super lucky? Like nobody knows. But that's Sid for you. So currently Sid is in this kingdom and they're about to have this competition. So this is basically where we get our tournament arc, which you see in like a lot of anime series. So Sid wants to show up for this tournament, but he doesn't want to show up as himself, and he can't show up as the shadow character because then everyone will go after him. Like the shadow character is a wanted criminal for some reason. So instead, Sid decides to get his group to pick the lousiest, weakest looking person that they can find and then dress him up as that character. So they find this nobleman who has recently died, and they basically decide to use, so I think it's slime. It looks like ink, but one of the other characters in his group, Epsilon, she uses a similar looking material to kind of shape her body. And I'll get into that in a little bit later. But yeah, so they basically give him a disguise, and they make him look like this nobleman who recently passed away, who basically just looks super weak. And Sid goes so far into role playing that when you have that, the cliche warrior show up and, basically call him a punk and kind of push him around. Sid doesn't fight back. Sid just kind of lets the dude actually punch him in the face and kind of knock him to the floor and basically kind of get saved by this other woman who's in the tournament. And then later on we see him like sitting on the bench eating, and he's like, yeah, I nailed it. I'm already making great strides. And he's just like so proud of himself that he nailed his act of looking like a weakling perfectly. And that's one of the reasons why I love Sid. Like he takes his character and his role playing so serious. And he's always like patting himself on the back every time he nails his role down. And that's where like a lot of the comedy comes in. Like we see another moment where he's like, walking through the tunnels, and this woman, Beatrix, shows up and basically questions him like, I'm looking for my sister who kind of looks like me. You kind of have a scent of elves on you. And the reason why he has that is because he has elves in his party. And she basically attacks him, or she swings a sword at him, and he doesn't dodge or anything like that. Instead, he like falls to the floor and starts screaming like, whoa, why are you doing that? Like, you're scaring me. And she apologizes because she's like, oh, I guess I made a mistake. I didn't, I thought that this guy was actually more than he appeared to be. And he is, but he's just like super good at nailing his part. And then after she leaves, he's like, she seems pretty strong. As for myself, I'll say the pissing my pants act was a pass, but I still need practice. And I was like, dude, did you actually piss your pants, or is that just the name of your plan, of your little act? Because if he did piss his pants, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, that's how serious he takes his role. So yeah, we cut to the tournament arc where it's basically just Sid taking on a bunch of new characters that's kind of just there for the tournament. Like, they're not characters that seem to play any important parts of the story. So yeah, like he takes on just character after character. He always does it like in style. Like, he played weak before, and he's showing very little movement and stuff during the actual fight. So people are still kind of underestimating him a little bit, even though he's like defeating everybody pretty quickly. He's trying to play it off like, oh, it was just luck, or he just happened to dodge at the right moment, kind of stuff. But then the longer the tournament goes, the more flashier he gets, and people start realizing that, oh, this guy's actually really good. He even ends up taking on a princess. This is Eris Midgard, who is Alexia Midgard's elder sister, and he defeats her pretty soundly. As for who Alexia is, she's a character from a previous arc, and it kind of took me a while to remember exactly who she is, because I'm not sure if this is just on my end, but sometimes I have trouble keeping up with who all these characters are and what they did in previous chapters. So for example, we have these three girls, and it took me a while to figure out who they were. So the one on the left is Beta, and she is a member of the Shadow Garden. And then the one in the middle is Alexia Midgard, and she was the one who, I believe I mentioned in the previous, yes, I did mention in the previous video. She's the one who basically had a teacher who was kind of like hitting on her. So to try to get him off her back, she pretended to be Sid's girlfriend. She basically bribed Sid to pretend to be her boyfriend. And then after she got kidnapped and Sid saved her, she actually kind of fell in love with Sid and wanted him to actually be her boyfriend, and he just kind of was like, no, and just bolted. And then the one on the right, I'm still not, I think that's Rose, but I'm not positive. Because see, here's the problem with the manga. Everybody, like all the women in this series seem to have blonde hair. Well, it looks like they have blonde hair. Beta actually has silver hair, but because this is black and white, her hair is depicted as white, which usually in manga means that they're blonde. So I'm just basically seeing a bunch of girls with blonde hair. A lot of the girls kind of look the same. And they might have different hairstyles, but they all have the same hair color, or at least when it comes to black and white, they all are depicted with the same hair color. So it's really hard to figure out what the hell is going on. But I know it's Beta, and that's Alexia, and then I'm going to guess that that's Rose. And for anyone who doesn't know who Rose is, Rose was in the, not the previous arc, but the one before, or the one before that. It was the story arc where the academy that Sid attends gets attacked by the imposter Shadow Gardens. Basically, in that arc, she fights Sid in a tournament, and she beats him. And she beats him because he wasn't going all out, because he was under his Sid disguise rather than his Shadow disguise. So she beats him, but during the fight, she basically develops respect for him, and then she tries to convince her father, who's the king, to marry her to Sid rather than to the guy who she's currently arranged to be married to. And it turns out that the guy that she's currently arranged to be married to is actually drugging her father to, take over the kingdom. And she discovers this plot, and she stabs her fiance, and he's able to basically beat her, and tells her, don't mention anything about your dad being drugged, or, don't go along with this. Otherwise, I'm going to have a bunch of people at this tournament get killed, and then I'm going to blame it on your dad. That's kind of like a weird plan. Seems kind of convoluted. Like if she just came out and said, hey, this dude's drugging my dad, and he has people killed and then blames it on the dad, maybe people would be like, hey, maybe she's on this. Like, I don't know how he would get away with that. The only way I can think of him getting away with is maybe he has like the backing of the church. So the church would be able to sway the public opinion that she's lying, but I don't know. That's my theory anyways. But whatever, that's the plan. So she's basically like broken. Like she tried to kill her fiance for drugging her dad, and she failed. And she also has like the mark of being possessed, and it's spreading. And basically the mark is like the mark of Diablos that was mentioned earlier. And it slowly kills people, kind of like zombifies them. And that's how Sid gains members of his Shadow Gardens, because he is able to cure the mark. Anyway, she has that. And she's in love with Sid. So she has all these things just going on. Nothing's going right for her. And she wasn't able to free her father or protect her country from the church. So I'm guessing her fiance is a member of the church. Like I said, it's been forever since I've read this. But so she's hiding underground in the tunnels beneath the kingdom when she hears Moonlight Sonata playing on the piano. And then, of course, who does it turn out to be? It turns out to be Sid in his shadow disguise. Acting all Phantom of the Opera like. He talks to her in all like cryptic and mysterious and kind of like cool, but like if you read the actual dialogue, it's kind of cringy, but it's hilarious because everything from Sid in his shadow disguise is kind of cringy, because he really is playing up his chuny obsession of being like this shadowy, mysterious character. So he's like, you lost something. Are you going to give up? Is your fight over? Or do you possess the will to keep struggling? Like, I have the power. I have the ability to give you power if you crave it. And she accepts. And basically Sid puts a bit of his power into her. And then members of the church storm the area, and she slaughters them all. And now she is a wanted criminal, in a sense. Later on, she shows up at the tournament, and she appears in front of her father, and she basically apologizes to her dad and, says, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to help you. Like, I will do my best to protect this kingdom, but I have to go my own path. And because she knows that she can't cure or lift the brainwashing that the fiance has done to her father, she ends up killing him. And of course, the fiance uses this to label her as a criminal and has the guard go after her. And of course, that's when Sid drops his disguise in just a really badass way. And I really want to see this scene get animated, and reveals himself. It's just so cool. Like, Sid is just such an awesome character. Like, when he's in his Lord Shadow persona, it's funny because he's like the cliche try-hard edgelord OP character that you see in a lot of Isekai series. But because of his real life persona, it, rather than, being cringy, it just becomes hilarious. And you can't help but root for the guy. Like, it's just, Sid nails his part perfectly. And it's just, I freaking love him. But yeah, so he saves this princess, and she basically calls him out. Like, she says, you're the stylish thief slayer. And then we have a flashback, and it turns out that when she was a child, she was kidnapped by a bunch of bandits. And remember that image that I showed earlier? Those are the bandits that kidnapped her. And Sid arrived and saved the day and cut her free. And when she asked, like, what's her name? He just referred to himself as the stylish thief slayer. And ever since then, she's been like obsessed with Sid. And that's the whole reason why she started taking up the art of the swords and becoming a swordswoman herself was because she wanted to emulate Sid. And then that's when the god of war, is it a god of war or god of battle? It's just a nickname. She's not actually a god as far as I know. But Beatrix basically shows up, and then we get a fight between Sid and Beatrix. And then the princess that he defeated earlier shows up and teams up with Beatrice, and then we get that fight. And yeah, we get like a 2-on-1. He ends up beating them both and stuff like that. So, and then he kind of vanishes. Yeah, it's basically just a tournament arc. Most of this is really not about Sid, but more about Rose and the kingdom and her eventually joining the Shadow Garden. Like, this is all about her, pretty much. Like, Sid plays a big part, but it's mostly her arc. This is basically like the movie For a Few Dollars More, if anyone has seen that spaghetti western. So Sid is basically the Clint Eastwood character, and Rose is basically the Lee Von Cleef character. So even though they share the same screen time, if anything, Sid even gets more screen time, a lot of the story actually revolves and is driven by Rose. And then at the end, she ends up being offered a position in Shadow Garden, and she accepts. So now the Shadow Garden has a new member. Speaking of Shadow Garden, we get a little bit of some of these other characters. Mostly, I wish we got to see more of Delta and Epsilon, because those are my favorites, especially Delta. I freaking love Delta. So Delta is the one with the cat ears. I think she's like a beastkin. And she's so like adorable and cute and happy-go-lucky, and you just want to just protect and pet her. And then when she gets serious, she's actually just a brutal monster that slaughters and eats people. Like, she decapitates people, bisects them. She starts eating like their organs and stuff. Like, she is just a monster on the field, but then off the field, she's like a cute little kitty cat. So I freaking love Delta. And then Epsilon is also one of my favorites. She is the one I mentioned earlier that has like the slime thing. And basically I'll kind of explain it. So Epsilon is flat-chested. So, flat is justice and all that. She's flat-chested, doesn't really have any hips or anything like that. And she's super self-conscious about her body. Especially since everyone else in Shadow Garden are, they're elves, so they're shapely, big hips, giant titties. And because she's flat-chested, she's super self-conscious. So she has basically slime that wraps around her and gives volumes to her hips, brings her chest out, gives her the perfect hourglass figure. So it basically creates like the perfect body, but of course it's fake. And she kind of like uses that because she wants to bewitch Lord Shadow and become his woman. But yeah, that's Eminence in Shadow. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm so excited that there's an anime series for this. I'm praying, please don't butcher the anime series. Don't ruin it. Like, I love this manga series. I love the light novel. I actually went out, for anyone who's interested in the light novel, of course you can find the translated version, fan translated version online, but there's actually an officially licensed version. I think only volume 1 has come out so far, which I have, and I'm currently reading through that, and I love it. I'm praying that the animation is good, the pacing is good, they don't cut out a bunch of stuff or make any changes, and I'm hoping that it gets popular enough that it gets, multiple seasons. However long it takes for the light novel to finish and the manga and all that stuff, I'm hoping everything gets anime adapted, like from beginning to conclusion. Fingers crossed that the anime actually ends up good and we don't get like just crappy animation or, lame CGI or any of that garbage. But yeah, check out Eminence in Shadow. Read the manga. The manga is, here's the thing. The light novel is great when it comes to action. So if you want to read like the action scenes are amazing in the light novel. Like, they're very descriptive and stuff like that. And they're I like them in the manga, but you get more in the light novel, obviously. What the manga does perfectly though is the comedy. It nails the comedy way better than the light novel does. Not that the light novel is low on comedy, but what the manga can do that the light novel can't is images. So you have like the expressions, you have just like the little dialogue boxes kind of like explain, like even the dialogue boxes are kind of like jokes. So the manga is better at comedy, the light novel is better at action. Both are amazing, and I highly recommend checking them out. You can find the manga on MangaDex and other sites like that, and you can find the light novel. Like, I highly recommend buying it. Support this series by giving it your hard-earned money if you can. If not, I'm sure you guys can find the fan translated on novel updates and stuff like that. But this is a great series, and I love it. It's so amazing. But yeah, I'm gonna stop here before I keep gushing. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you guys think. If there's any recommendations that you guys have for manga, comics, anything like that, let me know. And like I always say, I always put it on my plan to read list. Whether I get to them immediately or not depends on, one, my free time, and two, how long the manga or comic book is. If there's a lot of issues or a lot of chapters, then it takes longer. But if it's not that much, then I get to them faster. But every time you guys recommend something, it always goes on my list. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you guys think. Any of you guys looking forward to the anime? Either way, I hope to see you guys next time. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.